I want you to take a second and reread your writing. Today, your goal with your writing is to change your story to add some elements of writing to show and not telling. So please follow along as we review the Nearpod from yesterday. Remember that we are supposed to be adding action or dialogue that shows what a speaker is doing or feeling. So dialogue are those conversations between characters, and action is things that are happening. In the action, we should be sure to add sensory details that support the senses. Remember, when I am appealing to the senses, I'm adding sensory details or bits of information that describe what's being written using the five senses. So my reader can see it by just looking at the words: sound, taste, touch, and smell. These words brighten up a story and help the reader feel truly involved instead of simply consuming the writing. Many people describe this writing method as showing as opposed to telling. So we're going to look at 5 of the different senses and see how an author could use these in a story to have the reader feel like they're really in the scene. So sight. What are all the things that the character might see? What does the setting or environment look like? Smell. What does the character smell? And how does the setting smell in general? What kinds of things might the character taste? What sounds do the characters hear? And then touch. What's the character feeling? Temperature, weather, objects. Not emotional feeling, but what are they literally feeling with their fingers? So some of those things might be silent, salty, delicious, foul, bright, rough, loud, and beautiful. So we want to add sensory details to our action so that we can show what's happening, and the dialogue should be a conversation between the characters that also help us to visualize. So when we're writing a narrative, we need to practice. We need to show and not tell. A common mistake is not revising your work after you finish. So we should always reread our work and go back to add details or revise to make the story better, which is exactly what we're doing today. We're looking back at what we wrote and seeing how we can add or change. So telling is just saying what's happening. I felt sad. But when we show, we can show tears stream down my face. Now the reader has to infer that I was sad because I was crying. Once you've identified a description you would like to improve, consider what dialogue or action you could use to show rather than tell. So let's look at some of your writing. I'm going to show you some examples of the writing that you guys have, and we're going to edit it. Remember, I had you reread your text, so here's an example of something we should change. I was up next, I took a shot. The minute the ball left my hand, I knew I had missed. Instead, we can change this to, I took a shot. Becomes much more engaging when we say, I bent my knees, looked at the basket, and let the ball fly out of my fingers. So we see here what's actually happening. We see some sensory details. This is what the person is touching. This is what they're seeing. So I want you to reread your story and pay attention to places where you can tell your story, or where you do tell your story. How can you use action or dialogue to show and not tell? So let's take a look at some of our writing. I'm going to show you writing that you guys have done, and we're going to edit it together. The humbug and the spelling bee got mad at each other, so they started fighting. Well, that's already happened. Remember where we left off? They were already fighting, so we don't even need that. Many people came to try to break it up, but they were too strong. So again, that has already happened. They had destroyed everything, and people got mad at them, so they put the 2 in jail. I like where this is going, but how can I show that everything was destroyed? Letters were scattered. Booths were turned upside down. And everyone in the word market stood still. I really picture at this moment that everyone's standing with their mouths wide open. Mouths dropped in surprise. Can you picture everyone with their mouth wide open? So instead of saying everything was destroyed and people got mad, this is what we're going to say. Letters were scattered, booths were turned upside down, and everyone in the word market stood still. Mouths dropped in surprise. Do you see how we changed from showing into telling? Let's look at another example. Humbug and the spelling bee were fighting furiously. Oh, what a good word. Then, while the crowd was moving back from danger, the stalls were knocking down and everyone got upset since the letters dropped down. Everyone was speaking so much misunderstandings from the next several minutes. That's a lot of sentence there. All of this has already happened. We've already read about that. But everyone was speaking. We're going to start here. How can we add some dialogue? Everyone was speaking. What were they saying? Let's add what they were saying. What just happened? Talk. Screamed loudly. Why would Talk be screaming? Remember, what I know about him as a character is he does not want anyone to waste time. So is this mess and this arguing and this fighting going to waste time? Yes. What a mess. He's going to be concerned about the time, right? This is going to take forever to clean. What has gotten into you? You too. Let's add some more. What says that everyone was speaking and there was misunderstandings? Take a second to revise your writing. Any places in your writing where you can show instead of tell.